We are standing on the Mount of Olives, one of the most important places in Jerusalem's history and in the life of Jesus. Just behind me is the Mosque of the Ascension. It's a small, modest building, yet it stands at a spot believed to be the place where Jesus ascended up to the heavens and the place where he will come back to when the time has come. I am Itay, I am a tour guide in Israel, and today I will share with you its history, the traditions connected to it, how churches were initially built, and how this place still acts until today. In the first 300 years of Christianity, the land of Israel was under Roman rule, and Christianity was an illegal practice in the empire. That's the reason for the many martyrs that were executed for their faith. The most known of them must be Saint George, who served in the Roman army and was brutally killed when he refused to change his Christian faith. That is why Christian communities were living on the hide and met in private homes to practice together. They called themselves ecclesia, or the gathering in Greek. The term Christianity seemed to appear only in the beginning of the 2nd century, but also then you couldn't build churches and practice freely. Nevertheless, the community of followers continued to grow rapidly, and by the beginning of the 4th century, it is estimated that there were between 5 to 6 million followers around the empire, about 10% of the people living under Roman rule. When we think about it today, it might seem that the other 90% of the people under Roman rule back then were pagans, and that's like a word that everyone used. They were pagans, followers of the other religion. But in reality, paganism was not a single unified faith, but rather a collection of many different religious traditions under one broad cultural umbrella. Each region, village, city, or kingdom could have its own god or deity that they chose to focus their worship on. For example, Jupiter, Mars, Neptune, or any of the other, and each one had its own unique ceremonies and local practices. Christianity, on the other hand, offered something radically different: the unity of worshipping the same God in the same way everywhere. This created a sense of belonging to a single large community that you could be a part of and feel connected to wherever you went. Christianity welcomed all people, men and women, rich and poor, slaves and free, with the principle that all are equal before God, while paganism grasped that inequality is a part of the natural order and kept these gaps between different people, different communities, in a way that couldn't be bridged over. Christian communities were known for its compassion, caring for the sick, the poor, widows and orphans. Even during deadly plagues, when others turned away, it provided a strong network of support, offering comfort, help, and purpose. It gave people a clear moral framework, a hope-filled vision of eternal life, and for many, also the powerful sense that they were a part of the true story of God's plan for humanity. Together, these things made Christianity deeply appealing and set it apart from the fragmented spiritual landscape of the ancient world. In 306, Constantine becomes an emperor, one of 4 emperors of the Roman Empire under the Tetrarchy system, each one of the 4 responsible for a different area. He didn't like it and eventually went to a series of epic battles against the other 3 until in 324 he defeated Licinius, the emperor of the East, and united the empire under his sole rule. Constantine took the role of the emperor only a few years after another emperor, called Diocletian, who saw the Christian community as a threat to the empire, and launched a great persecution against Christians, attempting to suppress the faith through destruction of churches, burning of scriptures, and execution of believers who refused to worship the Roman pagan gods. Constantine decided to take a completely different approach, and in 313, he initiated, together with Licinius, the emperor of the East, the Milan Edict, which gave a complete freedom of religious practice, and that made Christianity into a religio licita, a legal religion. From now on, you could build churches and practice freely, and the community started to grow even faster than before. Other than the obvious reasons for Constantine to build a good relationship with the Christian community, there is also the religious tradition telling us that in 312, the day before the Battle of Constantine against Magnatius, at the Milvian Bridge north of Rome, Constantine saw a sign of light over the sun showing him a cross with the writing "In hoc signo vinces." With this sign you shall win. During that night, in a dream, Jesus appeared before him, telling him to draw on the shields of his warriors the first two letters of Christos in Greek letters. Constantine drew the sign on the shields, won the battle, and changed his attitude toward Christianity. But he himself didn't become a Christian until nearly his death. His victory arch in Rome, for example, is decorated with pagan symbols. And while this may show that he was still a devout pagan, it may also be just decoration. Here in Israel, for example, you can see pagan symbols and gods on the floors in mosaics of ancient synagogues around the Galilee, but this is for another video. In 325, the mother of Constantine, Helena, who was also a devout Christian, came to the Holy Land and for the first time built churches commemorating the most important holy sites she could find. One of those churches is the nearby Paternoster Church of today. The church that stood here was built 60 years later and was called Imbomon, on the hill in Greek. It survived for almost 250 years, but in 614 the Persians invaded and destroyed most churches in the Holy Land, including this one. After that, it was built again, and from that church we already have descriptions of eyewitnesses that saw it. It was round and was built with the idea of the Ascension in mind, and therefore it didn't have a roof, so that the pilgrims that came into the church could see the open sky from within. A pilgrim called Arculf that came here in the 7th century describes: "There is a large round church, around which there are 3 vaulted porches, covered from above. The inner structure of this church has no roof and no vault, and stands in the open air. There is an altar covered with a narrow roof in the eastern part of this structure." That church was also destroyed, and then rebuilt again by the Crusaders. The inner chapel that we see today is an original from the Crusader complex, with a few changes that were made after Saladin conquered Jerusalem, and made the church into a mosque. The arches were sealed, a dome was added, and the important relic that was in the middle of the chapel was moved a bit to the side. What is the important relic, you ask? According to tradition, an original footprint of Jesus is left on the solid limestone from the moment of the Ascension. But we can take it with a pinch of salt, since the first detailed description of the site, written by a pilgrim called Igeria, that came here in the end of the 4th century, doesn't say anything about it. The first evidence that we have of the footprint is from around 680, and there it's described that the footprint of the Lord, impressed in the dust of the place, can be clearly pointed out. So, dust or rock? Tradition is that with time the footprint solidified, so you can decide for yourself. There are very few places in the Holy Land where ancient events and future events are so deeply connected. So, in this place, let us read Zechariah 14. "On that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two from east to west, forming a great valley, with half of the mountain moving north and half moving south. And until that happens, you are more than welcome to come and tour with me around the land of the Bible. I am Itay, I am an Israeli tour guide. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.